have such power and such intelligence in them.
Aloha, my friends!
How's everybody out there? Welcome to the UnAlteredE experience.
Yes, we're so excited to be here and to have our special guest.
Actually, my name's Alexander.
Oh, yes. My name is Sarah.
And that's my wife.
And that's my man.
And we're not making any claims.
Nope,
Absolutely
no claims at all.
Wouldn't be worth making any claims because, we're all different. And what we're doing is bringing personal experiences, real life experiences from people, directly from the people to directly to you. So that's kind of what we're doing, and zero claims.
Absolutely no claims, and providing possible options. So we have a special guest with us today. I'm so excited. Welcome, Corinna Barrus. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Okay, now I've heard I said your name 1,000 times, but what's the exact pronunciation of your last name?
Barrus.
Barrus. And it's like, but it's spelled B-O-U?
B-A-R-R-U-S.
Barrus. Why did I say B-O-U?
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Sometimes people say Barrus, which I think is
yeah.
elegant. Barrus.
All right, sounds good. So, just get a little background information from you. Where were you born? Where were you raised?
So I had kind of the quintessential California upbringing, maybe a little bizarre, but part of the time. I was actually born in Garberville, and I was born at home. I was one of the first wave of kids born at home with midwives and everything, kind of that coming back into vogue.
Nice.
And so my parents were kind of hippie parents at the time. They were doing this back to the land experience when I was born. And, they had goats and they lived out in the country. And then they realized that that wasn't for them. So they moved to San Francisco. So I remember growing up in San Francisco. I don't remember that whole period because I was about 2 by the time we were in the city. And then I was in San Francisco till I was 10 and then Berkeley. So I had the San Francisco, lived in Haight-Ashbury experience, grew up and went to high school in Berkeley, which is kind of a whole, microcosm in the world as well. Very California, very alternative kind of upbringing.
So San Francisco to Berkeley, huh?
Mm-hmm.
What was it like growing up in that time frame in San Francisco and then Berkeley? I mean, was that was post bra burning, but still pretty crazy?
I didn't really know any different until I was older, right? So I just kind of thought that's how the world was. But the city was a lot smaller then in the sense that, as kids, we'd run around and we'd be out till 6 or 7 at night, kind of like everywhere else in the world, I guess. But yeah, just a lot of characters, I think. A lot of really interesting people. Kind of a fun thing. My dad actually, my mom was a teacher, and my dad was putting himself through school to be a counselor, to be a marriage counselor. And he actually made stained glass and sold it down at Fisherman's Wharf. So I spent the time with my dad just running around Fisherman's Wharf and, while he was selling his stained glass.
That's awesome.
That is actually super cool.
Yeah.
So, so when growing up, how, as far as like nutrition or food or what was your life like?
It's interesting. I think both of my parents were open and interested in natural health for sure. Obviously the home birth was a very natural, natural birth. My mom didn't want to have any drugs, didn't want any interventions. So I wouldn't say we were like a highly medical family. My mom used acupuncture. She did some herbs. My dad would kind of go on these health kicks and like with spirulina and Burgist. And so I kind of remember him making these like horrible smoothies and just trying to get me to drink them. And, but, we didn't, I think when I was sick though, I still remember going to the doctor. I don't think my parents really had tools and ways of managing the basic stuff for kids at home. I don't think they really knew that type of thing. So I still ended up probably like other kids going to the doctor, taking medicine when I was sick.
Got it.
Okay.
And then post Berkeley or towards, did you go to school in Berkeley? Did you go somewhere else? Did you go to school even?
So I took kind of a circuitous route through all of that. I actually had a dream to go to Hawaii when I was in high school. So I saved up money and I just moved to Hawaii. And I spent about 6 months just traveling around Hawaii in Maui.
Wow,
Perfect.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I just loved it, and I wanted to come back. I wanted to live there, and so I was trying to figure out kind of what I could do to earn a living. And so I then went to massage school, and so I went to massage school really early on, became a massage therapist, and I worked in Maui for a couple of years at some really high-end like resorts and for a chiropractor doing massage. So early on, I got into the whole natural health world through doing massage. And then so many other people that I was, exposed to, chiropractors and things that were into natural health that I worked for. And then I ended up going to college later, actually, in my 20s.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Wow, that is awesome. So
Yeah.
really you set yourself up to have some really awesome experiences at a really young age, right? Like by the time you went back to college, you'd already lived some, you know what I'm saying? Like lots of times people are just like leaving the house when they go to college.
Yeah. And I did actually, before college, I did another 6 months travel through the Pacific Rim. And so with a backpack and did a
What?
whole,
By yourself?
I actually traveled with a friend.
Oh,
But,
nice.
yeah,
But still, I didn't realize you're so adventurous.
thank
That is
you.
awesome. That's like been on my bucket list to like backpack travel. But I don't know. I'll have to convince my husband.
We'd have to
That's
put,
never
like-
been on his bucket list.
Well, no.
Wait, I'm not trying to say anything bad
No,
about
it's
you.
not. No one said it wasn't on my bucket list. I never said it wasn't.
Oh, was it ever?
We talked about.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
okay.
It's
Her
okay. It's
memory
okay.
is a
Either way,
little
that's
bit,
so awesome that you actually did it.
It's harder with kids for sure. And that's, one of the things once I got into doTERRA, and it was such a dream to be able to travel again, but be able to take my kids. And, obviously it's so much easier one person in a backpack than a whole family.
Totally,
Yeah, for
for sure.
And the expense and everything. So I've been able now to be able to do more travels again, which has been really cool.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that is super awesome.
So after your getting into school, were you looking at natural solutions? Were you going down that path more so? And where did that lead you?
Yeah, I would say that would be my predominant go-to was natural solutions when I could find a solution that worked, right? So that worked most of the time, I would say, where I would use herbs, or I did acupuncture as well, or I would sometimes see a naturopath, but I would really try to find a natural solution to things. I ended up actually right before starting to use essential oils, having some like really, really hard situations where I just kind of couldn't find solutions and felt really overwhelmed. And I did end up kind of using more Western medicine, which I really didn't like. So I think it was kind of a mix for me before.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then you said that was right before essential oils. Now you've been involved in.
Well, actually, let me back up. I had kind of a few early experiences that kind of pushed me in that direction even more. Because as I mentioned, like I grew up kind of, we did some natural, but really when it came to getting sick, I would go to the doctor. And early on in my teen years, I was put on some antibiotics that I had a horrible reaction to. Like I got hives all over my whole body. I got, fevers. I was like passing out. I got really, really, really sick. It was really scary actually, because I was away from home. I was a teenager. I was like 15 or 16. And then, so they said, okay, you're, obviously allergic to, that was penicillin. We're going to try you on amoxicillin the next time I needed something. And then I had a horrible reaction with that, rashes all over my entire body. So I had these experiences early on where I was like, I do not want to take antibiotics. Like my body does not like them. And it turned out I'm actually allergic to 3 of them. So, but I've had other bad reactions on medicines. And also my grandmother actually died from a properly prescribed medication in her 50s.
Holy
She
moly.
overdosed. She had an overdose reaction. And so I kind of had this very kind of skeptical fear even, honestly, of medicines because of my own experience. And then, of course, my grandmother.
So it was almost in your blood. I mean, like my dad, he not penicillin, excuse me, Novocaine, when they would go to do his teeth, wouldn't work on him. So they had to like quadruple it up. And so when I would go to the dentist as a little kid, I'd be tortured because they thought it was not like I was normal, and they're drilling on me, ripping me, and I was like screaming and crying. And so then one time I went in when I was older, and I said, oh, I don't think it works the same like my dad. Can you? And so they had to shoot it in the roof of my mouth, all these gnarly shots, but it took extreme measures to be able to even somewhat deaden my tooth. So, and that was from my dad. That's crazy that it kind of came down to you, that you have this intolerance for this Western, this kind of, these cylinders or whatever,
Yeah. 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 I think certain people's bodies are more sensitive. I really find that. And, a lot of these Western drugs just go in and kind of obliterate, and they can really, they do wreak havoc whether you feel it or not,
Totally.
over time, but I could feel it. It was pretty harsh.
Well, it's crazy too, because if you look at that effect and then you look at kind of fast forward to now, how much of an impact you have on people's lives in regards to natural health. It's like you almost got pushed into it and then you just ran with it, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So how soon after that, or what led you, or how'd you first get introduced to essential oils? Let's just go shoot to there.
So it's so great. I love how I was introduced, because really at that time was kind of a rough time in my life. I was going through a lot of stress. I actually was taking some medicine at that point for anxiety, because my anxiety was so high, and I had gone through this period of the downturn of the economy. We lost our, it was like a 2-year period, but we lost our house during that time. We lost 5 properties that we had bought. My dad was diagnosed and passed away from cancer that year. And I was leaving, my kids were little, they were like 2 and 5, and I kept leaving my kids, flying across the country to take care of my dad. And it was just so stressful. So I started having insomnia, and I couldn't sleep, and I took sleeping pills, and stuff like I'd never done in my life. I had pneumonia during that period, and lost 50 pounds, and just really I was not well. And so when the essential oils came into my life, I just describe it as like a life raft. I felt like somebody gave me a life raft, because I always felt like I was just kind of sinking and drowning in all of it. And I started to use them for emotional support. I started to use them. I had a lot of candida in my body at that point, from probably a lot of stress and other, probably some of the meds and just the way I was living. And so I started to use them to rid my body of that. And I really had powerful results quickly. And that kind of blew me away, because I had used natural medicine before. And my experience of natural medicine is that often it worked, but it was slow. And that's why sometimes I wouldn't use it, because I'm like, oh gosh, if I'm really sick, or if my kids are really sick, we got to deal with this quick. I don't have time to let this linger, right? Especially with kids, right? There's that feeling of they've got a fever, they've got this, they've got that. I don't want to let this linger too long. I want to see results, right? And so the essential oils worked so quickly that I was like, whoa, they work faster actually than a lot of other Western things I had tried. Not slower.
That's so crazy.
That blew my mind. Yeah.
It's crazy because before we started this podcast, I used to think the same thing, just because maybe I didn't really assess our experiences properly. But also I thought, if I don't catch the headache right as it's building up, it's going to be less effective. Or if I don't do something, it might take longer. But especially now, 20, 25 podcasts in, and paying more attention to how it's affecting us, oftentimes they're faster. And all these experiences, they're faster. And I used to be like, well, and I used to think headaches. Because I get headaches, right? So I'd be like, oh man, if I got some slamming headache and I can't control it with peppermint, past tense, frankincense, whatever, I'll have to pop some Advil, which I never want to do ever. But it's like, man, there's a host of other things and other symptoms and things that just get slammed by essential oils immediately, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it is so amazing. I think one thing that is true that's different than a Western medical model is, there's a consistency.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right? It's not like pop a pill and forget about it, right? It's there is hey, you may need to reapply for a while and layer, and so there is that aspect to it. But the effects are, if I put past tense on a headache, I feel some effect pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
Now, I completely wipe it out immediately, right? There may be more steps, but if I pop an Advil, I don't feel immediate response to that, right? So plus, of course, what's it doing to my liver, and and again, there's no shame or blame. I mean, there's times for sure. Like, I'm so grateful we live where we live and we have access
Totally.
to, like right now I'm taking care of my mom who just had surgery. And of course she's going to take the pain meds for a few days, right? Like, that's okay. Like, there's a time and a place for that. But we're going to wean her off as quick as possible, right? With oils and with other natural things. So.
Yeah, that's
Well, and the
awesome.
other thing I love about living nowadays is it's like I get to use the natural option, but I still have in the back of my head, if I need to take him to the doctors, I can. Like, I love that. And for us, actually, we've been
Yeah.
we've really been able to tackle some really pretty big things
Yeah.
with ourselves and with our children. And always in the back of my head's been like, okay, if I don't continue to see progress and it's getting better, I can always rush him to the doctors if we need to. And so far we've been able to just, with bone broth and nutrition and with using oils and taking the supplements, we've been able to tackle everything. It's actually been super amazing. But I love that we do have that option, and
plus
it's
like,
important to have that option,
because
Totally.
I'm always like, so what,
This
like
is it.
what? Because I'm concerned, right? So I'm like, okay, this kid's sick in this way, like what? And she goes, yeah, what? What are we going to do? Take him, and then what? The doctor's going to put him on antibiotics. And I'm like,
I literally think about, like, before I had the oils, because I was kind of in that boat too. I mean, my issue was I believed in natural, but before the oils, what I did was I would take herbs, swallowing herbs, right? And those would either be powder forms, sometimes teas, tinctures. Guess what? They taste horrible, okay? And when my kids were little, like, I don't think I could have bribed them with enough candy in the world to get them to take that stuff. There's just no way. They wouldn't do it, right? And so I felt like I didn't know what to do when they were sick, because so I did take them to urgent care for those types of things, because I was like, I know what I can do. I could take golden seal and echinacea for a week, 5 times a day, and I'm like, I can't do that with them.
Totally.
So I love with the oils that they can be used topically,
Totally.
aromatically, and they work, right? The kids don't actually, it's great if they will get them internally. There's a lot of benefits to that. A lot of little kids, it's really hard to get them to take anything internally. Even the Western meds, my kids would spit them out. They'd be
totally.
like, terrible. So it's like so hard to get them to do anything. So, I mean, once you have the oils, it's like, so before the oils, like once a month at least, I would be at urgent care, because the kids always get sick in the evening on a weekend, right? Like, they don't get sick during office hours.
Totally.
And you bag your kid to urgent care, you wait in the lobby for like an hour and a half with like 30 super, super sick people.
Totally.
Your kid's touching and licking everything, and you're like, oh my God, like, we went in for a little cold and flu, and we're probably going to come out with, like, God knows what,
I
like
know.
some horrible disease, right? So it's like, that's the last place you want to be with your kids when their immune systems are already compromised, surrounded by all this. And then, what do? They give you an antibiotic, basically. And so that's kind of the deal was that I had every month. And so I was so grateful. I have the same experience as you. Like, we have gone for, knee, surgeries.
Yes.
And the normal stuff, no, we don't go for that. I know what to do, and it's worked every time. And I had the same exact philosophy. I was like, we can always go to urgent care. It's there.
yeah.
But I'm so grateful that I don't go there anymore.
So
Oh my gosh,
it's
totally.
pretty crazy. I have to share the story. Actually, another thing about how fast these work and with children.
Yeah.
So my littlest, he's 3, just turned 3 recently, and so we were coming home from somewhere.
The cutest 3-year-old, by the way, ever.
Thank
So
you.
cute.
Oh my gosh,
so
thank you.
much.
Thank you.
We went on a walk or something, and he was just like walked forward or something, and he threw up, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. And so then he's saying his stomach hurts. He can't make it home. Oh, that was not the walk. And so by the time we got home, he barely made it. Didn't have to go to the bathroom. We thought he had to go to the bathroom. And he was crying, and he was just feeling like almost like lethargic. I'm thinking, oh, dude, this is it. Like this is, I'm Mr. Hypochondriac almost. I'm like, okay. And so I think she asked him, you want some oils? And he said yes, because he knows about, Digestin. She put Digestin on his stomach. I swear to God, from him just being like, oh, this is, and just sick and almost crying. Probably like a minute later, I'm better. I mean, like, and you can't fake that. Like, I could fake that maybe. He can't. I'm better. Let's go. I want to go back. And I'm like, no way. Like, that was like, another huge testament to how these oils can work, because I was very concerned, and like the way he took a 180-degree turn, and he didn't have to swallow anything. He didn't have to. He loves the oils. And that was it.
I actually rubbed it on the outside of his tummy and on the bottom of his feet, and I did it actually twice.
Oh,
I did it twice. Probably like I did once, and it was. At 5 minutes later, he was still like, and so I did it again.
Okay.
And then like 1 minute after that, he was
yeah.
fine. So that's the other thing. It's like you have to be repetitive and you have to apply as often, because sometimes I feel like we're like, okay, apply every blah, but it's like sometimes I need it more than that, and it's okay. So you just have to pay attention.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. You can reapply, you know, and that goes back again. I know I don't need to be like slamming on Western medicine, but you know, I remember I was always so stressed out and panicked about when I would give them the little children's whatever Tylenol, because you have to measure it out, right? Those little, is it milliliters? It's like 4 a.m. and then measure that for an hour. And then you're like, oh gosh, was it 4 hours or 6 hours? And like, you know, if you put too much, you're going to overdose your kid and you're going to be in the emergency room pumping their stomach. Like that's just the worst feeling as a parent. And if it doesn't work, you can't give them more. It's like, that's it. Whereas with the oils, you keep layering. Like, I love that's totally safe, and that you know you can keep adding more, and it just, that makes the biggest difference in the world.
Yeah, that's so huge.
It's so
like,
comforting.
You know, I remember when our 2 oldest were super young, and a couple times we had to get the cough medicine and stuff, and it is like, okay, 4 hour, 2 doses in 24. Okay, wait, and it's like, dude. I don't want to kill my kid. I don't want to overdose my kid.
Well, and it's like before you make the transition, and we're just I feel so fortunate that doTERRA, like that they showed up and did their work in the world. You know what I'm saying? And that they like did all this and created these awesome, amazing oils. But like when you're a parent and you don't have that option, you always have infant Tylenol on you when you have a baby, right? Like I think about my older 4, because we didn't start using oils until we already had 4. Like our youngest is our first oil baby. Like we haven't ever had to do anything except for oils, right? But prior, anytime we had a baby, there was infant Tylenol in your backpack, plus like teething stuff. You know what I'm saying? And you were just like, whenever feeding and giving them, you know, changing their diaper didn't work, you gave them Tylenol. Like what?
Yeah.
And that was just that's just like the norm. That's just the normal American way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Nobody thinks twice about that, really.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
So, who introduced you to oils?
So, I believe you've had her as a guest on your show, my friend Roxanne Bybee. You know, and there's just such a great it's how we live, and it's how we do life, right? It's how we share. We were friends. We both had kids doing a schooling program together. And so she, you know, as I'm sharing with her things going on in my life, personally with my kids, of course, the natural thing is to share the oils. She used oils with her kids. She was in herself. She knew how they worked. So she started to give me some. However, I have to be honest, I was pretty skeptical. And it's because I actually had been using essential oils for, oh my gosh, at that point, probably 20 years. So I was a massage therapist, as I mentioned. But even before massage school, I found essential oils. I found them when I was 16 years old. And I started using them. And then I used them, you know, I went to massage school at 18. So I started using a lot of essential oils at that time. They're really popular, actually. I mean, I shouldn't say that. They were really popular in that world as a massage therapist. You know, acupuncture, things, the world that I was in at that time. Essential oils were popular. And they were actually relatively good, okay? Because this was the late 80s. I'm old. And they were actually relatively good. What ended up happening, though, is that as soon as they became a little bit more commercial and more people tried to make them, the quality went way down, right? Because a lot of people started using synthetics, inferior oils, you know, all of the things that we see now, like rampant in the market. And so what I started to experience as a massage therapist was that I stopped using the oils, actually. I was like, they're not that great. Basically, that was what I came to. I had a lot of people have bad reactions, again, because I was using oils that were probably cut with synthetics, just really low quality. And I didn't know. I had no idea that there was this, this huge discrepancy in the market. And so I had kind of stopped using them. I used them a little bit, but I used them more like, oh, I'll put this one in my bath, or I'll, have a little diffuser. I like the smell, but I wasn't using them therapeutically. And really, I didn't have access to therapy kinds of oils. So when she introduced the oils to me, I was a little bit skeptical, because I'm like, oh yeah, I know about essential oils. Yeah, they're okay. That was kind of my feeling at the time. So it took a little while. Also, what's interesting, when I first smelled doTERRA's oils, I was like, whoa, these are really strong. Like, they seem so strong to me, because I was used to watered down, cheap oils, really, like, that were not pure, were not potent. And so my first reaction to it was it kind of overwhelmed me, because I wasn't accustomed to it.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
So, of course, then I had to learn the difference. Plus, I was like, Roxanne, you're a mom. Like, what do you know about oils? I've been a massage therapist for all these years. I was a little bit, I thought I knew more, right? Which is funny, because really she knew more about these oils. So I had to kind of become humble and become willing to listen and learn.
Okay, so I'm just curious, how long did that take you?
So, honestly, it was about a 6-month process, I would say. She would let me try some oils, and I would have like a really awesome experience. And then I would kind of be like, okay, well, that was cool. And I kind of didn't give it a lot of credit. And I think it was after my like 4th or 5th amazing experience, I'm like, okay, these oils are amazing. And I need to pay more attention. I need to really, and so as I started to use them more and have more and more experiences, I started to share them with friends and family, and they started having, the same experiences. And it was kind of fun. I remember at one point, my mom was, I think, in her 50s when I started using the oils, and she was getting hot flashes. And I remember I didn't know anything about hot flashes, but I was like, okay, well, I'm going to look it up in the book, right? And I'm like, okay, these are the 3 oils. This is how you use it. And she started using it, and like within 2 days, she stopped having hot flashes.
What?
And I was like, that's what I said. I'm like, what? Like, 'cause that wasn't even something I was doing at the time. But it was so cool to be like, oh my gosh, like when people tell me about their problems now, instead of just feeling like, oh, I'm so sorry. And, you feel like fear, right? What do? You go, I'm sorry. Oh, that sounds terrible. Now I'd be like, hey, wait a minute. Let me look this up in my book. Let's see what we can do. And so that was fun. I loved that feeling of being able to help people that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That is so awesome. So to our audience.
Yeah.
Gold is in the follow-up. Do you hear this? It took her 6 months and you weren't buying oils from her, right? She's giving you samples. Is that what was happening?
Samples. After around 5 or 6 months, I did start buying.
Yeah.
I know.
But I mean, still, for 6 months, she offered you that was very generous of her to not just be like, okay, sister, seriously. You know what I'm saying? She was patient. And for those of you that don't know, Roxanne Bybee is a founder of the country. We didn't even say, we really don't really share normally this kind of stuff. But I think in this situation, for those of you who are listening, I think this is helpful for you to see, because Roxanne Bybee is a founder of the United States, and she's a presidential diamond. And Corinna is also a presidential diamond. And so like, if she hadn't been patient, right, there's a lot that would have been lost for a lot of humans. Like, I'm not even talking about money, you guys. I'm talking about all the impact of humans that have been impacted because Roxanne took time to share with Corinna. Corinna's had a major impact on the planet, right? She's a presidential diamond, which means she's shared with thousands and thousands of people. And so I just love that it was patience and it was really love for humanity, for you as a human, and then just humans in general. She saw that there was a benefit you could gain and you just didn't know. And probably why she thought that and was so patient is she also didn't just jump on right away, right? Her husband got on and then she took time and she was like, yeah, whatever. Like, don't talk to me about these oils. She did that herself. So she probably saw a little bit of herself in you and was like, oh, okay, she just needs a little bit more time. Like, it's totally fine. So don't give up on your friends that you guys are sharing oils with, you guys. Like, don't give timelines. Like, allow people to come and have their own experiences, and patience and love when we show up like that, makes a huge impact. So anyways, go ahead. I apologize, but I just had to make
No,
that
I
point.
love that you said that. And there's just one thing I'd love to add to that, which is, you know, so James Bybee is Roxanne's husband, right? And the two of them are amazing. My friendship initially started with Roxanne, you know, but then of course it extended to James. And early on, I remember when I was kind of trying to decide, like, do I want to do this as a business, you know? And then that's like a whole nother conversation. And I think ultimately I realized that it was sharing and educating people, which I was so on board with. And so I decided yes, but even in that decision, there's lots of ways one could do that, right? It could be like, I'm going to do this kind of part-time or just casually. And I was trying to decide that. And I remember having this conversation with James, and I said, you know, I don't know if I really want to like build a business or just kind of share it with my friends and family, you know, because I know the oils work. I would share them if business or no business, because that's what we do. When something works for us, we share with what we love. And he said, what do you think is going to have a bigger impact if you just share casually with some friends or family, or if you build a business that touches thousands and thousands of people's lives all over the world, right? And that question was like, that was such a powerful question, because it really, I was like, well, yeah, I want to touch as many lives as possible. And at the time that just seemed like a pipe dream, really. Like I had no idea like how that could even happen. And it's so beautiful now, 9 years later, like that has happened. And I am so grateful. And of course, like I'm just a very small piece in this whole puzzle of, you know, there's so many thousands of people in the world sharing these beautiful oils, and look what you're doing to share these oils with people, and the stories, which is the most powerful part, really, that the story. So I just appreciate what you're doing so much. And
thank you.
I think you're really offering an amazing service to people.
Thank you.
That's
really
pretty
nice.
awesome.
That
Thank
is
you very
super
much.
awesome.
So once introduced to doTERRA, after you finally jumped on board and started going, were you implementing them quite often in your family and with your, yeah?
I mean, really, once I kind of figured out, like, pretty much use oils for pretty much everything, right? Again, surgery, okay, have a surgeon. But even within that, there's oils to prepare, there's oils after. I mean, even if you do need to, and there are situations where you really do need to be under the care of Western, you know, physician, of course, or surgeon. But there's so many ways that you can use the oils to complement that experience, for the emotions, for the healing, for, you know, a lot pain. But yeah, my deal was like, we're going to use the oils. We're going to, just like you said, the doctor's there, urgent care is there, but we are going to use the oils. We're going to try it for everything. And really it was, I can't say we've used it for everything now, 9 years later, but really pretty much everything except for, the surgeries and a couple other little things. It's been probably about 98%, which is huge.
That's massive.
I mean, that's massive. Yeah, it's just massive. And then it became also like learning more ways to use the oils. So obviously there was a lot of focus when I started on my own well-being. I would say I worked a lot on myself because I was really struggling. So I did a lot to rid my body of candida, the supplements, you know, I had really wonky hormones. So I was working on that. You know, the stress, the emotional wellness, all the stuff with the kids, right? When you have little kids, it's just constant. But then it was like, oh, what about beauty, right? What about hair care, skin care? Like, let's get that natural and detoxified. What about cleaning the house, right? Chemicals out of the house. Oh, you can cook with these oils. Let's explore that. And so it just became like, and that's what's so wonderful is like, you can start as simple as you want with like, okay, I got this problem. Let's tackle that. But then literally it's endless. They can be used for everything. And so it becomes this wonderful exploration into how else can we use them? How else can they bless people's lives? And then, I mean, everyone you know is struggling with something. Literally every single person has a health or emotional issue or both. And so it became, you know, this whole exploration of how can I help all these people? And again, I don't know everything, but luckily there's books, there's apps, there's all these tools so that we can find those solutions and we can find those answers.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome.
So can you think of some experiences that you went through, and can you share with the audience how you used oils and whatever else, protocol. You know, whether it's, what was your protocol? Will you pick something and share that?
Okay. So I struggled with anxiety most of my life. And I think I mentioned I was on meds for it for about 15 years. And so I'm not going to talk about the weaning off process so much because I do think that is individual for each person. And, you know, obviously I'm not recommending people do that. I just want to be really clear. If you do that, it is good to be under the care of someone who is supportive of that process and knows how to do it. Okay. It's a slow process. And for me, it involved a lot of cleansing my body, taking supplements, using oils. There was a lot of things that needed to be in place. Emotional work, prayer. Okay. But I still get anxious, right? It's not like 100% done. I still get anxious. And especially when I fly in airplanes, I can really kind of get panicky actually when it gets bumpy. And so I can get really, really freaked out, and I fly a lot. So it's just really ridiculous that I still have this fear. But I am telling you, there are a number of oils that I use, but my go-to number one, if I can just grab one oil, is this oil called Serenity. And it's super calming. It's really good for fear, anxiousness, nervousness, anger, agitation. It's a great one for sleep. It's just like super calming. It's got Roman chamomile, ylang ylang, lavender. It's got a few other oils, sandalwood. And so I literally just pull off the cap and I just
inhale right from the bottle.
And like I'll get some on me, but sometimes if I'm really nervous, like all I can do is get the cap off, right? And I just sit there and I do like these deep, deep breaths. And I'm telling you, like maybe 10 breaths in, it just completely relaxes me. Like I am calm.
Nice.
And I used to be somebody that like had to like kick back a couple of cocktails and like just like try to knock myself out on flights because it really freaked me out. So that is a situation. I carried in my purse. I find when I'm driving, sometimes driving will also be really anxious for me, especially if someone like cuts me off on the freeway or I feel like, you know, there's a close call. I feel my heart rate go up. Same thing, just pull off, breathe that oil. Now, there's a lot of other oils like frankincense. I love vetiver, peace. These are some other oils that I've used as well as the supplements. Those are things that really help, I think, on a daily basis to just like keep me calm. But that's one. I can tell you about kind of a cool experience. It was actually a really scary experience, a protocol that I did for my son.
Okay, yeah.
So this was a few years back, and we were in Southern California. We're actually at a doTERRA event, and I was speaking at it. And so we had to drop our kids off. They were little at the time. I think my son was, I don't know, 6 or 7. And we dropped them off at some cousin's house. And it turned out my cousin was super, super ill. I forget what they had. But so we picked up my son, and then we went to Legoland, okay? And he had been wanting to go to Legoland his whole life. It was just like Shangri-La for him. And it's about noon at Legoland, and all of a sudden, you know, throwing up, laying on the ground, just completely ill, right? Bring him back to the hotel room, and he was probably the sickest that I've ever seen him. So he's high fevers, he's throwing up all over the room, and we're supposed to, first of all, that in and of itself was really scary. And I was in that moment of like, okay, do we just rush him to the, you know, to the urgent care, the emergency room? Do I try to handle this? I'm like, and so I kind of was like, okay, let me see what I can do right now. If I can just start to work on this, if not, we're going to have to go. Meanwhile, we're also supposed to drive home the next day, which is like an 8-hour drive. Okay. Long drive in the car, right?
With a puking child, like that's the worst.
Yeah. So, and high fever, like we were like, there's no way we're getting him in a car right now. So I just got on it. Like immediately I started getting peppermint and I diluted it. I started rubbing it on his body. So his back, his legs, his feet. I got oregano and frankincense and On Guard and bottom of the feet, and then diluted on the spine. Okay. And Digestin on his stomach. And I kept reapplying it probably every 10 or 15 minutes. Okay. And I started to see the fever coming down. So I was like, okay. I started, you know, he was still kind of throwing up, but he got it out of his system. And this was the amazing thing. I figured that I might be able to manage it naturally because I had used the oils at this point a number of years, right? I had some confidence. But I was like, I'm sure we're not going to really drive home the next day. Like, we're probably going to have to spend another night at this hotel and come back in another day. There's no way this kid is going to be ready for like an 8-hour drive, right? He was fine the next day. no fever, no, not complaining of any pain, eating normally. Like,
Oh my God.
blown away. We did the drive home. He was fine. Like, so that's the kind of thing where, like, thank God that I had those oils.
Totally.
You know, here in a strange town, I don't know who to go to. I don't know what to do. It's like, it would have been probably a trip to the ER. It was late at night. You know, by the time, you know, things, and it just would have been expensive and scary, and who knows what they would have given him. And like, it was fine. We just used oils and we drove home. It was like,
It's so
I
awesome.
love that. And you guys, so this is the deal with that. It was her consistency. Like, consistency is key, right? She says every 10 to 15 minutes, spine, bottom of the feet, on the tummy, just getting them on him and reapplying. Because what happens is, as it's trying to spread, the oils are able to go in there and just get working on him. So that is so, and again, you guys, we're not making any claims.
No,
This is her personal
no claims.
experience. And it's an option that might work for you.
Well,
you know?
what's cool is time and time again, story and story again. It's not necessarily, I mean, I see it as like an empowerment story.
Oh my gosh, it's so empowering.
Because you have these levels of offense and defense before you are at need to take them somewhere. And it's so amazing that we're able to have that. It's not just like children's Tylenol. It's like these actual legitimate natural solutions that are worth trying because they've worked for people like yourself. They've worked for
They've
people
worked for
like
us, totally.
And man, just to be able to have that.
And you know, you guys, so this is the other deal to our audience, that it is more work at the time, but in the long run, it saves you so much more time, right? Because what would have happened, she would have had to go to the doctors, which that takes time, right? Then they would have got something, and then it would have taken time for him to get better. They probably would have had to stay another day or maybe even two, right? So in the long run now, in the moment, she probably didn't sleep very much that night, right? Like, because you're applying. I totally understand because I have definitely done the same thing. But her child feels better faster, and it was totally worth all of that immediate time that she provided and applied because in the end it saved her probably a week. You know?
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome too because and there's this part that's like, it's almost like people need to be re-educated and like retaught how to address themselves, how to address their loved ones and their family, because it's not just, here, take this pill and call me in the morning. Take 2 of these and call me. It's like, oh, and the fact that you're interacting with your child, you're hands-on.
It's totally bonding.
That's all bonding and healing. I mean, human touch is healing. So like, it's so much more than just a couple drops. It's like you're in tune. Your spirit, your prayer, your thoughts, your energy is going into that healing. It's not just like, here, take these. We'll see how you feel.
Oh, 100%. I love that. I love that. And it's also like learning ourselves, and then obviously our children is so beautiful, learning that like the body actually heals itself, right?
Yep.
If we give it what it needs, it will heal. And we're working with our body, and we're not working against our bodies. And even to things like with fevers, like I know that in a more natural approach, like a fever is burning something off in the body. Like a fever is not inherently bad. And I think even in Western culture, as parents are taught, oh my gosh, there's a fever, get rid of it, you know? And obviously you don't want a fever to go too high, of course, right? That would be dangerous. You do need to monitor it. But and the oils can bring it down, but you actually, like the body is actually doing something with that fever. And our kids need to go through those things. They're building their immunity, they're building their bodies. And so I think it's like understanding that and not being so fearful. I think we're taught to be so fearful.
Oh, man.
You know, especially as mothers, we're just like, and of course there's things we need to be aware of, and there's times we need, there are true emergencies, of course, but everything isn't an emergency.
Totally.
And so I think learning to, and of course we learn, I think as parents,
Totally.
What is and what isn't, so.
Well, and the other thing too is I think sometimes it's almost like society puts this thing that like, if you're not a mother who worries, then you're not a good mom.
Well, not only that.
You know what I'm saying?
Not only that, but like.
That's a lie.
If you are trying to take, there's this thing like, oh, we're trying to address it. And what always comes to my mind is like, oh, those super radical religious people in those little small sects or cults that the kid
Right.
gets bit by a snake and they're like, oh, we're not going to do anything. Like God will take care of it. But because they're like, look at how bad those people are. And and it's pushed so much. Modern medicine, big pharma. You see these commercials, you see the news, all these things. And it's like, dude, like we just want to help our child. That's the bottom line in the best way possible. And so there's always that little thing. I mean, I remember a couple of times we were handling stuff and we're like, dude, this has, this is going to work because otherwise it is a beeline directly to emergency. And,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just crazy how, like you said, the pressure, or almost like the pressure. Yeah.
Yeah. Because sometimes there's definitely been times where I'm like, you're oiling and, I happen to be a woman of faith. So I'm like praying and I'm oiling. Right. And I'm just like, please, like, I know you work. Just like, please, like, let's help this get better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you guys, I just also want to say, when you take your health into your own hands and you have an option, so you don't have to be going to urgent care all the time or into the doctors, you're doing them a favor, because then the doctors have time to focus on people who they really need to help. Like right now, their offices are so full of, things like, that you could be able to manage at home if you had the tools. And imagine if all of the people were using the tools that they could have in their home, freeing up the doctor's time. You know what would happen? There would be more quality time at the doctors because they'd have time to provide quality. So as much as we're the benefit, and that's awesome. Like I love that I'm empowered and I have the benefit, but I'm also providing room and space for doctors to be able to take care of and do their job, what they went to school for things that are big deal, that really need more time, and they're actually not getting the time that they need, you know? So it's such a big impact when you decide to be someone who
It's just
is
the snowball
empowered
effect.
and
The snowball effect,
takes your health
Take care of
in your own
yourself
hand.
by doing that. You're able to take care of others. You're freeing up space. You're able to. You're bettering the world.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I mean, I think true healthcare really is something that we need to be focused on. And, in our culture, I think Western medicine is more of the emergencies. It is more of the surgeries, right? Diagnostic. Those are areas where we really excel, I think, in Western medicine. And those can be utilized and used beautifully, complementary with the natural.
100%.
We're talking about health, right? Being healthy, like that is something that we need to, that's not going to be, so much going to doctors as it is really our lifestyle. What are we doing? What are we putting in our body? What are we using? How are we addressing these things in our family when they come up? The day to day, right? I mean, that is really what keeps us healthy, is like, what are we eating? What supplements? What oils? Are we getting rid of toxic stuff, really? And I love that. I feel like doTERRA just gives us this healthy lifestyle in this way that's pretty easy, actually. It's easy to learn. It's easy to implement. You don't have to have, a degree in natural medicine. You don't have to study for 20 years. I mean, it's great if you do. That's beautiful, but you don't have to. It's pretty simple. And I think that's one of the things that I love, because I feel like before doTERRA, even though I was in that world of natural healing, it was pretty complicated, to be honest. It really did require quite a bit of knowledge, and I didn't feel like I had this kind of like one size kind of fits situation I could pull out for everybody. And now I do. I mean, even the oils, it's pretty remarkable that the same essential oil can be used on a baby, a child, an adult, an elderly person, your pet, right?
And for all different things.
Yeah.
It's so insane. It's almost
so
like too good to
insane.
be true.
Yeah,
it's almost too good to be true.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was a kid, there was, Saturday Night Live. There was, they have the fake commercials.
Yep.
There was this commercial. It's like, it cleans your house. It washes your hair.
Yep.
It was like something that did everything, And sometimes I feel that way about the oils. Like, I'm like, okay, this doesn't sound true, but it's true. It is true. And then I think that's the beauty of nature. It's like,
there you go.
So diverse.
These plants have such power and such intelligence in them. And there's hundreds of compounds in one essential oil, one plant. And so it does hundreds of things, right? It's when you look at the chemistry, there's a reason for that. But when you're just describing it, it does sound a bit far-fetched.
It does. But, and also that kind of brings me to a point, hundreds of compounds in each of these essential oils. And what's awesome is that we're all so different. Our body makeup, our tolerances, our genetics, our allergy, whatever they are, so different. And it's amazing when someone says, "Oh, I use this for this. Oh, I use this for arthritis." Wait, the same oil? But how? Because they're different. We're different, and it's like trying these different oils and getting stories out like this. I think, I mean, first of all, we've learned so much from all these different stories, you know, because it's like, you use it for this, you use it this way, how, what? And it's like...
Aren't you always amazed? Like, I feel like I'm constantly hearing about people using oils in ways I would have never...
Oh my gosh, me too. I have every single podcast in my mind, I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's just awesome. I mean,
it's super awesome.
It's something that can be...
Well, one thing I like to say about the oils, which is, you know, when you do, like, you know, obviously if you take a Western medicine over the counter or prescription, there are side effects, right? We all know that, right? That's to be expected. And if you ever pick up a prescription, there's like a legal form like this long telling you about the side effects, right? And some of them are pretty gnarly.
Yeah, for sure.
And so what I love about the oils is I call it, you get side benefits, right? You might use this oil for your headache, but it's doing 100 other things you don't even know that are good. So you get the side benefits.
I mean, and
I
what's
love
funny
that
is
side benefits,
in all my, in all of our, or at least all my experience with the oils, the worst I've heard is someone might have an intolerance to a certain oil. Or maybe they over-applied and got a rash or some sort of bumps or something. But I've never heard of people getting sick, anything like that. I welcome that. I want to know, because that's another reason why we want to get more information out. If someone did have some adverse effect to something, maybe it could help someone. So, but I'm looking and I'm
actually... Sorry, I'm sucking on guard. There are last seconds because are you gonna? Oh, it's okay. I got it.
I was gonna.
Because I have a.
Oh, that's love right there. That's love right there.
I think a little bit of scratch.
I have just a little bit of an itchy throat, but so have you ever had any negative side effects to oils? Has there ever been something that? Share.
One thing that I have experienced, now I have very sensitive skin, and so there's a little education that goes along. There was one point, actually when I first started using the oils, it's interesting, I had psoriasis on my neck. Again, I had like so many things at that time from, I think, just all that stress, and I wasn't in a really healthy place. So I had psoriasis on my neck, and I was using oils for it. And again, I was reapplying, and I did learn that I had to dilute the oils when I reapplied them that many times. The sensitive skin, the neck is sensitive skin. And so even though I was putting oils like, let's say, lavender, melaleuca, that are very gentle, and I could put them on my skin, really any part of my skin, I could put them directly. But when I was reapplying, I really needed to dilute it with some coconut or another fatty oil. Coconut oil. And so that I did notice I got a little bit like red. It kind of was a little irritated. It was irritated. Yeah. So that's something that I've learned. I also experienced that with, I'm trying to remember what it was. There was someone I was having them put oils on the chest, like on the front of the chest, which is also kind of sensitive skin. I think for a rash as well, actually. And same thing, like when they were just applying the oils, you know, repeatedly without diluting it, after a while, not at first, but after a couple of days of doing that, they said, you know, it kind of is irritating my skin. So that's really the most that I've ever had. I mean, of course we all have, if you use the oils, you get the oregano, you know, undiluted in the mouth, or, you know, one of those kind of things, you know. So I have had a few, or like peppermint in the eye, you know? That just goes with the territory.
Yes, that does. We've had that too.
So as we wrap up here, do you want a final message or anything? And also we want to, I mean, if you have a link that we can add, if you'd like us to, we would love to add your link so that people can contact you or get a hold, you know, some way if you'd like.
Well, you know, I just really encourage people, you know, if you are new to essential oils, if you're new to trying them, to really give it a try, because they are amazing. And I know they'll bless your life, and I know that you're going to have incredible experiences if you'll try them. And don't get overwhelmed. I think that would be my suggestion. Just start with something. Start with one thing that you want to start trying oils for, or a couple of things, right? Because sometimes people can be like, oh my gosh, there's so much. I feel overwhelmed. And there's no reason to be overwhelmed. Like, you literally just start where you are, start with this thing, and then you try another thing, and then you just start to use them. And the other thing I would say, if you are just beginning to use the oils now and you're like, how do I incorporate them, remember, right? Because I feel like that's one of the things, is like creating new habits takes focus. It takes time to create new habits, good or bad, right? And so one of the things that I really like to do is have the essential oils where you're already going to do something. So for example, I have oils right by my toothbrush, because I am going to brush my teeth in the morning and at night, right? I will never not brush my teeth. Like, I have to brush my teeth, right? So a lot of other things I may or may not do that I want to do, but teeth are going to get brushed. So if I have oils right there that I want to use a few times a day, I can link it to something I'm already doing, like brushing my teeth, right? So that would be my suggestion. Again, like, put them in your purse, have them by your desk, the ones you need for headaches, focus, right? Put them right by your kid's nightstand that you want to use for bedtime. Like, put them where you're going to use them, because if you stick them in a cabinet and close the door, it's like out of sight, out of mind. Yep. So I would just say, start using them, and then get them where you're going to see them, remember them, and where it's going to be easy, right? Make it easy for yourself, because they're so easy to use. You open a bottle, take a few drops, swipe a roll on. I mean, there's like nothing easier, honestly, in natural wellness that you could use. They're the easiest thing. But again, you want to have them right there. So I love that you're doing this. I mean, people are going to get so many, I think, awesome opportunities to learn how to use the oils from this podcast. So I'll give you guys the link to my website if people want to check it out. It's intouchessentials.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed
Thanks for
this.
joining us.
Thank you,
Thanks for joining
Corinna. Super awesome. Thank you for sharing your precious time.
And thanks to all of you for watching. We want I want to ask you for a favor. If you can, share this with just 2 of your friends, or 2 people that you think might actually benefit from this, because you never know who will. And you never know how much of an impact it can make on their lives, or their children's, or their family or friends.
I totally agree. So like, share, subscribe.
And hit the bell notification so that every time a new one comes out, you'll be notified.
That's right.
Thanks for
Have
joining us.
an amazing day. Thank you for joining.
Remain unaltered.
Remain unaltered. Bye.
Dudes.
Bye.